What suspicious thing made you spy on your partner, only to find out they're adorably dumb? My boyfriend was sneaking out every Tuesday night at exactly 9 p.m., and I was convinced he was cheating until I followed him and discovered the truth. For 3 months, Jake had been acting super weird every Tuesday evening. He'd get this nervous energy around 8:30, keep checking his phone, and then suddenly announce he needed to run errands. "I'll be back in a couple hours," he'd say, grabbing his keys and practically sprinting out the door. When I asked what errands took 2 hours on a Tuesday night, he'd give vague answers like, "just stuff," or "boring adult things." The first red flag was when I offered to come with him once. His face went completely pale and he stammered, "No, I mean, it's really boring. You wouldn't want to come. Trust me." Then I noticed he was dressing nicer on Tuesdays. Not like date nice, but he'd put on his good jeans instead of sweatpants and actually brush his hair. He'd also spray cologne, which he literally never did for grocery shopping or regular errands. The final straw was when I found a receipt in his pocket for $47 at some place called The Learning Center. When I googled it, nothing came up in our area. My mind immediately went to the worst places. Was he taking classes to better himself for another woman? Was The Learning Center some kind of code name? I tried asking him directly, "Hey, what's The Learning Center?" He froze like a deer in headlights. "Oh, that? It's just, learning stuff. Nothing important." That Tuesday, I decided to follow him. I waited 5 minutes after he left, then got in my car and drove the route I'd seen him take. He drove across town to this strip mall I'd never been to before. I parked where I could see his car and watched him walk into a building with a small sign that just said, "Community Education." My heart was pounding. Was this where he was meeting someone? Through the window, I could see him talking to a woman at the front desk. She was probably in her 60s with gray hair and glasses. Not exactly the affair partner I was imagining, but maybe she was just the cover story. I waited 20 minutes, then snuck closer to peek through the windows. What I saw made me stop dead in my tracks. Jake was sitting in a circle with about 8 other adults, and they were all holding picture books. Not just any picture books. These were like kindergarten-level books with big, colorful pictures and simple words. An elderly woman was at the front of the circle reading "Green Eggs and Ham" out loud, and everyone was following along in their own copies. I rubbed my eyes thinking I was hallucinating. My 26-year-old boyfriend was in what was clearly an adult literacy class, sounding out words like ham and Sam with the concentration of a 5-year-old. Then it all clicked. Jake had dropped out of high school when his dad got sick, and he had to work full-time to help support his family. He'd always been sensitive about his education level, but I never realized he actually struggled with reading. All those times he'd ask me to read movie reviews out loud, or when he'd listen to audiobooks instead of reading. When we'd go to restaurants, he'd always order the same thing or ask me what I was getting first. I thought he was just being indecisive. I watched him raise his hand to read a sentence, and he stumbled over the word green. The teacher patiently helped him sound it out, and when he got it right, his whole face lit up with pride. My heart completely melted. This man was working 40-hour weeks at a construction job, then secretly driving across town twice a week to learn how to read properly, and he was too embarrassed to tell me about it. I quietly went back to my car and drove home. When he got back that night, he seemed nervous like always. "How were your errands?" I asked casually. "Fine, just boring stuff like I said." I wanted to tell him I knew, but I could see how important this was to his self-esteem. Instead, I started leaving simple books around the apartment. Kids' books mixed in with magazines like I was reading them for fun. 3 weeks later, I accidentally found a flyer for adult literacy programs and left it on the counter. "This seems like such a cool program," I said. "I bet it helps a lot of people." Jake picked up the flyer and studied it carefully. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I bet it does help people." That night, he finally told me the truth. "I've been taking reading classes," he admitted. "I was too embarrassed to tell you because you're so smart and you went to college." I hugged him so tight he probably couldn't breathe. "I think that's the most amazing thing ever," I told him. "I'm so proud of you for doing that." 6 months later, Jake read me a bedtime story for the first time. It was Goodnight Moon, and he only stumbled on 3 words. I've never been more attracted to anyone in my entire life. Now he reads to me every Tuesday night, and those are my favorite nights of the week.